I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture this. You're 14 years old, you're in a little rowboat, it's all battered and old, and you're out on a river.
Okay.
And the river is, it's swollen with rain. You've got one oar, just one. And to make it worse, it's broken. It's literally just a handle with a blade kind of attached.
So you're basically stuck.
You're basically stuck. You have no plan, no backup, except you do have your dog, a German short-haired pointer named Pearl, and she's sitting there next to you, soaking wet and shivering.
Oh, okay.
And you are chasing a man you know is violent, he's abusive, almost certainly drunk, and he has just abducted a girl you care about.
That is a terrifying image. I mean, honestly, it's the kind of scenario that would make most full-grown adults just completely freeze up.
Right.
But what makes this so compelling, I think, is that this isn't just some random adventure story. This is the crucible moment for a character who has become, you know, a real icon in American literature.
Exactly. Today, we are unpacking the origin story of the literary detective Spenser. We're doing a deep dive into the source material Chasing the Bear by Robert B. Parker. And this book is just fascinating because of its structure. It's framed as a memoir of his youth. So we're not watching him solve a crime in Boston as an adult. We're watching a boy raised in, like, total rural isolation.
In a house with absolutely no women.
No women at all. And we're watching him develop the very specific code of honor that, you know, defines his entire adult life.
And it's such a fascinating case study in that whole nature versus nurture debate, isn't it?
Totally.
We usually think of these hard-boiled detectives as being products of, like, police academies, or maybe they're jaded ex-cops who just saw too much on the city street.
Sure, the classic tropes.
But here we see that Spenser's moral compass, that really unique blend of tenderness and just absolute controlled brutality, it was forged in the woods.
Yeah.
In a place he calls West Flubadub.
I love that name, West Flubadub. It sounds exactly like the middle of nowhere, which is pretty much where he was. It is. So let's set the scene properly for everyone. Our source material frames this whole narrative as a conversation. It's the adult Spenser talking to his longtime partner, Susan Silverman.
Right, and they're sitting in the Boston Public Garden.
Of all places, watching swan boats. It's so peaceful.
Which gives you this stark, almost jarring contrast. You've got the calm, you know, the analytical present.
And Susan's a Harvard PhD psychologist, so she's really digging in.
Oh, absolutely. She is treating this like a session. She's gently prying these memories out of him, trying to figure out what makes him tick. And then you cut against that, and you have the visceral, just incredibly dangerous past that he's describing.
So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out, how does a boy become a man who can read classic literature 1 minute and then break a bully's nose the next?
What kind of parenting produces that specific kind of duality?
Yeah, let's start with that, the foundation. His upbringing was, I mean, to put it mildly, unconventional.
That's one word for it. So his mother died in childbirth, a cesarean section. So from day one, literally his first breath, there is no maternal figure in the house.
None. It's just Spenser, his father Sam, and his mother's 2 brothers, Uncle Cash and Uncle Patrick.
3 enormous men.
Enormous. They're carpenters, they're boxers, they're hunters. The text describes them as being hard as axe handles.
Which is such a great description. And Susan, in the book, she points out something really interesting about this setup.
What's that?
She mentions that in some tribal cultures, it was actually pretty common for a princess's child to be raised by her brothers.
Huh? I didn't know that.
The idea was to keep the bloodline in-house, you know, and to make sure the child was protected by the strongest warriors available. It's a variation of that it takes a village idea, but it's twisted into this very specific, very insular house of equals.
The house of equals. I really stuck on that phrase when I was reading.
Yeah.
Because they didn't treat him like a baby, did they?
Not at all. And that is the absolute secret sauce of his upbringing. They treated him like a short adult who just didn't know everything yet. There was no condescension. There was no baby talk.
They just expected him to catch up.
Precisely. And that equality, it extended to his education. And I don't just mean school. Spenser clearly thought school was mostly nonsense, just a place to kill time.
Yeah.
I mean, the education he got at home, and it really had 2 pillars, the physical and the intellectual.
Okay, let's talk about the physical first, because this is intense. They started teaching him to box as soon as he could walk.
They did. And it's important to clarify here, this wasn't just, you know, roughhousing in the backyard. It wasn't about toughening him up through abuse.
I was technical.
Very technical. Yeah. Left, jab, jab, right, cross. It was a daily grind of mechanics. But And this is so crucial. It wasn't about teaching him to be a bully or an aggressor. The philosophy was sound mind and a strong body. It was about competence.
There's a line in the source where the father says, this has got nothing to do with pushing people around. It's about being as complete as you can be. That really resonated with me.
It's a very Greek ideal, actually. This idea that physical capability is like a prerequisite for moral courage. If you're weak, you might be forced to be a coward.
But if you're strong...
If you're strong, you have the choice to be gentle. But then you've got the other pillar, the intellectual one, the red leather books.
This is my favorite detail in the whole book. These three huge, axe-handle hard men who weren't formally educated themselves. They were tradesmen.
Right.
They pooled their money to buy a set of the classics of Western literature, and they read to them every single night, half-hour chunks.
And the key here is the total lack of censorship. They didn't know what was age-appropriate, and they didn't care.
They just read them.
Everything. They respected his intelligence enough to expose him to these complex ideas long before he could fully grasp them. They just let the language wash over him.
There's that one specific moment where they're reading William Faulkner, and the line is something about how brown liquor is for hunters, not for women or children.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Spenser's just sitting there, listening to this, drinking a soda, while the men are all drinking scotch.
It solidified his identity, didn't it? As a hunter in training. He wasn't excluded from the ritual. He was just in a different stage of the same journey.
He wasn't an outsider.
No, that sense of belonging is so powerful for a child's confidence. He didn't feel like an outsider in the adult world. He felt like an apprentice.
Okay, so speaking of hunters and brown liquor,
Yeah.
we have to talk about the incident that gives the source material its title, the bear.
The core metaphor of his youth. This is really the moment where all that training gets put to the test.
So Spenser is out bird hunting with his dog, Pearl, who, by the way, sounds like the best dog ever. She's basically the fourth parent in the house.
Totally.
And they run into a black bear in an apple orchard.
And not just any bear, a drunk bear.
A drunk bear?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just terrifying. A sober bear is bad enough. A drunk bear is unpredictable.
Yeah, it had been eating fermented apples off the ground, so it's intoxicated, it's aggressive, and it is massive. And here is the test. Spenser has a shotgun, but it's loaded with birdshot.
Which is useless.
Totally useless. If he shoots the bear with that, he's just going to annoy it. Maybe blind it, but definitely enrage it.
Yeah.
And bears are fast. If he runs, the bear chases, and he loses.
So what does he do? He stands his ground. He just levels the shotgun, hoping to maybe blind it if it charges. But mostly he's just standing firm to protect the dog.
He's 14.
Yeah.
Staring down a drunk monster.
And then just silently, his father appears beside him. And this is what I love about Sam Spenser. He doesn't yell. He doesn't run in screaming. He doesn't panic.
No, he just pulls out a .45 revolver,
Right.
a hogleg, as Spenser calls it, and stands right next to his son.
They just stand there together. The bear looks at them, it grunts, and it leaves. But here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Right.
The father's reaction. He doesn't say, oh my God, you're safe. I was so scared. He doesn't hug him.
No. He says, you were smart because you lived to hunt another day.
He praised the competence, not the bravery.
He praised the judgment. And then the real reward wasn't, affection in that typical sense. It was the ritual. They went home, and the father poured 3 scotches for the men and a Coke for Spenser, and they all sat and drank together.
That inclusion again.
Yeah.
You faced the danger, you kept your head, you earn a seat at the table.
Exactly. And that lesson, that panic is the enemy and competence is the antidote. That's what Spenser carries with him into the main conflict of this story.
The abduction of Jeannie Hayden. This is where the action movie element really kicks in.
Yeah.
So Jeannie Hayden is a friend of Spenser's. Not a girlfriend, but a friend.
And she comes from a really bad home.
A terrible home.
Huh.
Her father, Luke Hayden, is the town boogeyman. He's drunk, abusive, just terrifying.
And Spenser sees her in her father's car, mouthing the word H-E-L-P.
And he doesn't hesitate. Not for a second. This is a 14-year-old boy. He sees the signal, tells his dog to go home.
Which he ignores, obviously.
Which he totally ignores, of course.
Yeah.
And he hops on the back of a moving trash truck to follow the car.
That resourcefulness is just pure Spenser. He's using his environment. He's not calling for help because he knows instinctively that the police won't catch up in time. He enters what Susan later calls a state of cathexis.
Cathexis. Okay, explain that for us.
It's a psychological term Susan uses. It describes an intense concentration of mental and emotional energy on a single person or object. Spenser just locks onto Jeannie.
But he clarifies it, doesn't he? He tells Susan it wasn't out of love for Jeannie, necessarily.
Right, it was duty.
It seemed like the right thing to do. That's his entire code in one sentence. So he tracks him down to the river. He sees Luke and Jeannie get into a motorized base boat, and Spenser jumps into this beat-up old rowboat with that broken oar.
That image of the broken oar is so important.
Yeah.
He is so woefully under-equipped. He has a pocket knife and a piece of wood against a grown man with a motorboat and a Bowie knife. But he goes anyway.
He just drifts down the river, tracking them. It's quiet. It's eerie. He finds their camp on an island. Luke is passed out drunk on moonshine.
And Spenser executes a stealth extraction. He sneaks Jeannie and the dog away.
But they can't go upriver. Not against the current with a broken oar. They have to go downriver, deeper into the unknown.
And then the rain starts, of course.
And they hear the motor. Luke Hayden is awake. And he's coming for them.
This leads us to the climax at the bridge. And this is, I think, the most controversial and defining moment of Spenser's entire young life.
For sure. So they take shelter under a railroad bridge. There's a sign there, a warning sign.
It says, "Caution, waterfall ahead. No boats beyond this point."
Spenser realizes Luke is catching up fast. He knows if Luke catches them, he'll probably kill Spenser and do God knows what to Jeannie.
He's 14. He cannot win a physical fight with this man. He has run all the simulations in his head, and they all end in death.
So he climbs up onto the bridge, and he moves the sign. He physically pulls it up and just lays it flat so it can't be seen from the water.
He removes the warning. He doesn't set a tripwire. He doesn't, shoot the man. He just removes the piece of information that would save his life.
Luke Hayden comes speeding down the river in the rain. He doesn't see the sign. He goes right past the bridge, over the falls, and dies.
And just like that, the threat is gone.
Okay, let's unpack this for a minute. Spenser basically killed a guy.
Well, it's a heavy moral debate. And in the text, Spenser himself really struggles with it. He asks his father, "I did kill him, didn't I?"
And his father gives this incredibly nuanced answer.
He says, "You made it easier for him to kill himself."
That is some serious lawyering from a carpenter.
It is, but if you look at the logic, the father points out, Spenser didn't make Luke kidnap the girl. He didn't make Luke get drunk on moonshine. He didn't make Luke chase them down the river in a storm. Luke created every single condition for his own death.
All Spenser did was remove a safety net that Luke was completely ignoring anyway.
It's ruthless, but it's also hard to argue with. It's about survival. It kind of reminds me of that idea that you're responsible for your own safety, and if you become the aggressor, you forfeit your right to protection from the consequences.
It's the ultimate pragmatism.
Yeah.
And it leads directly into the next big theme here. The difference between justice and the law.
Right, because they still have to deal with the aftermath.
They survive the night eating peanut butter and crackers, sleeping in the woods with the dog between them, like some kind of Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah.
And then they get picked up by Uncle Cash. And then they have the family summit.
The dinner table discussion, antelope steaks and green tomatoes.
Man, they ate well in that house. I always get hungry reading these books.
Me too.
So the question on the table is, do they tell the police?
And the father makes this critical distinction here. He says there is right, there is wrong, and then there is the law. He believes what Spenser did was right. In fact, he calls it goddamned heroic.
But he knows the law is a blunt instrument.
The law isn't about what's right. It's about evidence and procedure. A prosecutor could easily look at moving that sign and call it manslaughter, maybe even murder.
Exactly. The father warns Spenser that the law could drag this out, could punish him for doing the right thing. But, and this is why Sam Spenser is such a fascinating parent, he leaves the choice to the boy. He says, if you think you need to tell the law, I'll go with you.
And Spenser decides to tell the truth. He wants to own what he did. So they go to see Sergeant Cecil Travers.
Now, Cecil Travers is a really interesting figure. He represents the good side of the system, but maybe only because he knows the family, he knows their character.
Right. He listens to the whole story. He knows Spenser moved the sign. He knows Spenser is telling the unvarnished, difficult truth.
And his verdict? Not enough evidence.
He essentially jury nullifies the entire case right there in his office. He says, nobody's even reported Luke missing, and nobody cares.
And nobody cares. That line is just chilling and also kind of liberating at the same time.
It absolutely solidifies Spenser's entire worldview. The system worked for him this time, but only because the person in the system, Cecil, knew his character and his father's character.
Yeah.
It teaches Spenser that individual morality supersedes the written statute. The law is a tool, but the code taught by his father is supreme.
It's the birth of the private investigator mindset, isn't it? You work parallel to the law, not necessarily underneath it.
That's a great way to put it.
And that code isn't just about violence and legalities, it's about emotional maturity, too. Which brings us to the aftermath with Jeannie.
Oh, this is a heartbreaking part of the story in a way. Jeannie has just been rescued from this horrible trauma, and naturally she just latches onto her savior.
She wants Spencer to be her boyfriend. She wants the whole romance. She wants to be saved in every sense of the word.
And Susan, in the present day, she analyzes this perfectly. She suggests Jeannie is looking for a missing mother figure or just trying to find some kind of stability.
And she sees that stability in Spencer's all-male household, the quiet strength, the routine, and she wants to be part of it.
But Spencer, he's only 14, but he has this incredible, almost unnerving clarity. He knows she isn't the one.
Which is a concept he gets directly from his father.
Yeah, absolutely. His father never remarried because he'd already met the one, Spencer's mother, and then he lost her. He dated, sure, but he never compromised on that ideal of love. He never settled for good enough or convenient.
And Spencer absorbed that standard.
He did. There's that scene where Jeannie asks him to kiss her, and Spencer's description of it is so clinical.
It is. He says there were no skyrockets, just an overheating feeling, and he was mostly just worried about not hurting her feelings.
It shows a level of restraint that is so rare for a teenage boy. A lot of kids that age would take advantage of her vulnerability or just, go along with it because a girl was interested.
But he refuses. He stays her friend, but he draws a clear boundary.
He does. And then you get the scene with Jeannie's mother, Mrs. Hayden. Talk about awkward.
Oh, the dinner scene. This is painful to read.
So she invites Spencer over for dinner. She makes chicken and frozen peas, which is such a stark contrast to the antelope steaks he's used to.
And she is clearly fishing. She's asking about his father and his uncles. 3 men, all alone, no women.
She's desperate. Jeannie calls her man crazy. She has this idea that a woman is incomplete without a man. And Spencer, even at 14, sees right through it. He sees the desperation and he is repelled by it.
And when his father and uncles eventually do go to dinner there, just to be polite, to do the right thing.
It's described like going to a PTA meeting.
Yes, they do their duty, they eat the peas, but they are not interested.
Because they don't respect needy. And that's a harsh lesson, maybe, but it's part of the code. Self-sufficiency is attractive. Desperation is not. They want a partner, not a dependent.
So we've seen Spencer deal with a bear, a kidnapper, and a desperate mother. But there's one more trial in this origin story, the anti-bully arc.
This is the story of Aurelio Lopez.
Right. Aurelio is a neighbor, a small Mexican boy, who's getting bullied by a gang led by this kid named Leo Romer.
And Leo Romer is the classic archetype. He's older, a high school dropout, son of a construction boss. He's the big fish in a small pond bully. Got the leather jacket, the attitude, the whole entourage.
So Spencer gets involved because Jeannie asks him to. But what really stands out to me is his motivation. He explicitly tells Susan later that he didn't care about racial loyalty or, any kind of politics. He just thought bullying was wrong, period.
He's a true individualist. He just completely rejects the us versus them mentality of the schoolyard. There's that great detail about the apple ambush orchestrated by another kid, Petey Hernandez.
Brilliant.
No.
Tell us about the apple ambush.
So the Mexican kids are outnumbered. But Petey Hernandez is smart. He figures out that Leo and his goons hang out in this parking lot full of heavy construction machinery, bulldozers, graders, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So Petey positions his kids on top of the machines with baskets of hard green apples. When the bullies arrive, they just rain fire down on them from the high ground.
It's tactical warfare with apples.
And Spencer loves it. He admires the tactics, he admires the smarts, but, eventually the fun and games stop. Leo Romer comes for Spencer directly.
He demands Spencer choose a side. You with us or against us?
And Spencer chooses neither, which of course, in the mind of a bully, means he has to fight.
Right, against us.
And this leads to the final lesson in managing the situation. Leo corners Spencer with 12 guys. 12.
Spencer's good. He's been boxing since he was 2 years old.
Yeah.
But he can't fight 12 guys at once. That's just simple math.
No, but remember the lesson from the bear. Don't panic. Stand your ground. And remember the lesson from the river. Do what you have to do.
But this time, the cavalry arrives. His father and uncles pull up in their truck.
Now, pay very close attention to what they do. This is the House of Equals parenting philosophy in action. They don't jump out and start beating up a bunch of teenagers.
No, that would just be bullying from their
And
side.
exactly. They don't scream and yell.
They just stand there. They create a perimeter.
They ensure a fair fight. The father says, "You two fight. We'll see that it's fair." He forces the bully to face Spenser one-on-one. He completely strips away the mob mentality.
And the fight itself. It's not some movie brawl where they're just tumbling around in the dirt. It's technical.
It is. Spenser uses the left jab, jab, right cross he's been practicing since he was a toddler.
He just dismantles Leo. Back fists, body hooks. It's the triumph of competence over bluster. Leo is tough, for sure, but he's not trained. Spenser just picks him apart until Leo quits.
But here is the kicker. This is the moment that, for me, defines the entire Spenser code. After Leo is on his knees, humiliated, bleeding, Spenser's father helps him up.
Yes. He helps the bully up. He brushes the dirt off his jacket. He tells him everybody loses sometime. And he offers him an ear if he ever needs to talk, because he knows Leo's own father is going to be furious that he lost to a younger kid.
That is such a crucial piece of the puzzle. Winning isn't about destroying the other person.
Yeah.
It's about establishing the boundary. And once that boundary is set, compassion returns.
It's the definition of the gentle warrior. You have to be capable of violence so that you hopefully don't have to use it. But when you do, you use it precisely, and then you stop.
You defeat the threat, not the person. He learns that humiliation is not only unnecessary, it's counterproductive.
So after all that, Spenser survives his youth. He gets a football scholarship to a college in Boston.
Which is a huge deal. He's finally leaving the nest, he's leaving the House of Equals and going out into the wider world.
And the scene at the train station. I have to admit, I did not expect to get emotional reading a detective novel, but this part really got me.
It's the cracks in the armor, isn't it?
It is. These men who are described as hard as axe handles, who never show weakness, who stare down bears without flinching, they tear up.
They're crying at the station. And then Spenser cries on the train.
It shows that their stoicism wasn't a lack of feeling, it was a container for feeling.
Yeah.
They loved him fiercely.
They had poured everything they knew into him, the boxing, the books, the code, and now they had to just let him go.
And then we flash forward to the present, in the park. Spenser tells Susan he eventually dropped out of college after a knee injury. He bossed professionally for a while, but he quit.
And he quit because he refused to play the Great White Hope.
Right. Another example of his code.
Absolutely. His individual morality just trumped the easy path to success. Promoters wanted to use his race to sell tickets to create this cheap narrative of white versus black.
And you wouldn't do it.
Spenser refused to be a pawn in a racial narrative. He just walked away from the money because it violated his sense of self.
And Susan, being the brilliant shrink she is, she ties it all together. She tells him, wherever you are, they will be. You contain them.
You contain them. That is the thesis of the entire book right there. Spenser isn't really a lone wolf.
No, not at all.
He is a walking, talking legacy of Sam, Cash, and Patrick. Every time he throws a jab, every time he reads a book, every time he helps a client, he is just manifesting their influence.
So what does this all mean for us? Why does this origin story matter to someone who isn't a fictional detective living in Boston?
I think it matters because it really deconstructs the idea of toughness. We so often confuse toughness with cruelty or with being emotionless. But the Spenser Code, as you called it, proves that real toughness is about three things: preparedness, independence, and restraint.
Preparedness being the knife in his pocket. Yeah. The constant boxing drills, the reading.
Right, being ready so you don't have to be afraid. If you know you can handle the worst-case scenario, you can walk through the world with a certain kind of confidence.
And independence, meaning you trust your own gut over the crowd or even over the letter of the law.
Yeah.
You do what is, right, not just what is allowed.
And restraint, which might be the hardest one. The idea that you only fight when you have to, and you help your enemy up when it's all over.
It's a real challenge to the modern idea of safety, isn't it?
Yeah.
We try to keep our kids safe by hiding the world from them. We baby-proof everything.
We do. Spenser's dad kept him safe by showing him the world-drunk bears and all, and teaching him how to handle it. He made the boy stronger than the danger.
Competence is the ultimate antidote to fear. Spenser wasn't fearless on that river. He admits he was terrified.
Of course he was.
But he had a plan, he had a broken oar, and he just kept moving.
And he moved the sign.
And he moved the sign. That brings us to the end of this deep dive. It's just such a powerful story about growing up, about the families we're born into and the ones we choose.
And about the choices we make when absolutely no one is watching.
Exactly. So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Spencer's father taught him that right and legal are two very different things. We all like to think we do the right thing in a crisis. But in today's complex, surveillance-heavy world, if you were alone on a bridge and you had to choose between following the rules or saving someone you love by doing something unthinkable, would you have the courage and the competence to move the sign?
That is the question.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.